lift's coming, lift's coming, lift's coming. Oh, crap, they're here. All right. Hi, my name's Jeremy Fagner. I'd like to give thanks to Brian Harrison for helping me set this up. I just wanted to say the reason I came up with the title I did was during the late 18th century, when the Revolution broke out. Paul Revere was a messenger. He also served in the colonial militia, and he was a messenger warning the local colonists about the British invasion that was coming in through New England. Anyway, and I figure, well, in this 21st century, we have a political movement that's been around since probably the turn of the last century. That would be 20th century. Anyway, my idea was that, like Paul Revere, he'd be a messenger carried out the warning for the war that the left's been waging against this country since 1900. And that's where I came up with the title, 21st Century Paul Revere. And I think in this century is a chance to undo all the evil that has been done in the last century, which has been 100 years of nothing but evil. And the reason I say that is when the left, I should say progressives, first came around 1900, their decide that got us, that corrupted America in thinking that abortion was about women's health and not about population control. But which hasn't been decided till 1970s with the Roe v. Wade scandal. And I call it a scandal because how do you legalize the murder of the unborn? By just some judge saying, oh, it's okay, you can do it. But to get away from that, I just want to say that this is what this was about. And I'm just saying that the last century was it was nothing but war after war after war after war. In the beginning was the Spanish-American War, which we had no justification to getting into. And next was our interventionist wars in Central America, which we had no business meddling with in the first place. After that, we saw World War I, which did not serve America's interest at all, because we have went against the very warning that we should stay out of Europe's conflicts indefinitely, that we should stay neutral when Germany and Great Britain decided to fight it out with each other. It's like, and after that, World War I. But the bad part of World War I is it was the left's ability to force the first national draft. And from 1776, after the second war, the second year of the American Revolution, till the Wilson administration, there wasn't a draft. This whole selective service was a whole 20th century idea pushed by the progressives, notably Woodrow Wilson, who forced state militiamen to serve in the National Army, the Continental Army, which has never happened in the history of the United States until Wilson became president. And and forced this country into a war this country never wanted to be involved with in the first place. And people forget that during this time, people were against the war effort in World War I. Most people were against sending American troops into Europe. But the progressive left successfully suppressed people with those views, even had them jailed to be involved in an unjust war. And the way I say it's unjust isn't, I don't think it was unfair about the Germans or the Austrians, which are the same people basically, just two different countries, who were fighting against Serbia and the Russians. Now, why it was unjust is that every military power involved in the war was just as wicked as any other. Whether it was the Soviets, whether it was the Germany, Austria-Hungary, or the French, or the British. It was all an evil war. I would say after World War I, we had probably, about 10 years after a major recession in 1920, Coolidge decided that it would not be right to raise taxes and regulate the economy, but rather let the economy fix itself, and you had the Roaring Twenties. But the other problem is under the Wilson administration you have the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve had an easy money policy through the 20s, just like we have today. And that's what brought about the market crash in 29 and the Great Depression. And right after the Depression, we found ourselves in another world war. One we couldn't avoid because of Pearl Harbor, but one that fascist FDR wanted us to get into anyway. But that's another side note. Anyway, after World War II, you have the Korean War, and President Truman couldn't win a war to save his life. And that's why it has been unresolved till this day. And to make matters worse, under LBJ, we have the Vietnam War, which lasted 10 years. And the problem with that war is we kicked North Vietnam's butt in every battle. Okay, that's too far. Anyway, basically to sum it up, most of the 20th century has been about warfare. There's probably been a total of maybe 20 years of peace in a century of war. And that's it. I guess I'll wrap it up here and we can continue later. Thank you.